What is up? Welcome back to another episode of the Naturally Empowered Living Podcast. This is your host, guide, and mentor in all things energetics, emotions, and self awakening, Jenna Smith. And I am super stoked for this episode. We are here at workshop number 2. What you are about to listen to is a live workshop recording from the second workshop session of my 3-part series, How to Build Trust in Yourself by Reconnecting with Your Felt Sense. Now, leading up to the first workshop in person and then after hosting that workshop, I had so many people reaching out to me asking, is there a replay? Is there a virtual option? I'm not able, to come that day. I had plans that day, or I'm not local. Like, is there a way for me to access this, virtually? And I listened. So I decided to record these sessions, this workshop, 3-part workshop, into an experience for you to experience anywhere. This is collective work wherever you are. You can take this with you. If you're, across the world, if you just wanted to listen on a walk or in your car, or maybe you don't feel comfortable coming to in-person settings, like, I got you. I got you. So just a little note before we begin, just a little disclaimer. This was not recorded in the live setting. This was me recording the same workshop, just alone in my office, just to keep the intimacy and the privacy of the in-person container for that live session, keeping that to itself. So if you are ready, allow yourself this space to slow down. Grab a journal, get cozy. If you don't, if you're driving and you don't have time to take the time to journal, you could always come back to the somatic exercise that's at the end of the workshop when you do have, those 10 minutes to yourself. Oh, I'm just so excited. It's like a 2-part workshop, education, information in the beginning, and then that somatic piece, that experience for you to really take with you in your day-to-day life. Also, like, this is about understanding why you do what you do and starting to build that connection back to yourself. So, if you are ready, let's get into workshop 2 of 3 of the How to Build Trust in Yourself by Reconnecting with Your Felt Sense series, understanding your internal operating systems, why you do what you do. Let's go. Hello and welcome back to the How to Build Trust in Yourself by Reconnecting with Your Felt Sense workshop. This is video 2 of 3, and last time in video 1, we focused on reconnecting to our bodies, welcoming in a new cycle, a way of being without force. Maybe to some that brought a new sense of awareness or just thinking a little bit differently, right? Or maybe I feel a little different, or this ignited something within me, okay? Today, we're building on that concept of connection without force and really diving into understanding why you do what you do by learning a bit about the underneath systems that are running our internal operating systems. Okay, so really understanding a little bit more about what's happening underneath, aka our nervous system, our subconscious, things that are running on just like that autonomic piece, automatic piece that we sometimes don't realize has a lot more to do with our external reality, our perception of reality than we think, right? Because so often we get so hyper fixated, hyper focused on changing a behavior or changing a habit or changing the outcome, right? Changing the reality piece of it when there's so much beneath those layers and so much underneath that. You've probably heard the quote before, or just the concept of you can't control the outcome, but you can control your effort. Same type of concept here, because without understanding the system, our internal operating systems that's truly running the show, it's not gonna work to just change a habit or to just change a behavior. And that's why so many of us are stuck or frustrated or feeling confused because we're so self-aware. We know, like, we feel like we know better. We maybe have done the work, quote unquote, the work, right? And we're still finding ourselves in these same repeating patterns or these same cycles where we're like, I know, how can I not stop this? Why am I stuck? So let's get into the depths, shall we? So thankful that you're here. So if you see yourself repeating the same patterns, okay, it's not so much as lacking awareness. A lot, heck, like so many of us are aware. That's why we're realizing, like, okay, these are repeating patterns. I am so aware. I'm seeing this struggle. I'm seeing this pattern. I'm seeing this recurring thing. It's because our behaviors aren't driven by awareness alone. They're not driven by our conscious awareness alone. They're driven by our nervous system, by our soma, by our subconscious. And I think one of the biggest misunderstandings is if we can think our way into something or think our way out of something. Like if we just have that awareness just enough, we can change. And there's something to that. I'm not saying awareness is always step one, right? We need to have that awareness. But it's all also that layer beneath, okay? Understanding alone, having that conscious willpower alone doesn't necessarily change the pattern or drive that change. Okay? Because our thoughts are we are not our thoughts, right? We have intrusive thoughts. We could have negative thoughts. We could have thoughts about XYZ. We have so many thoughts rotating through our mind. We are not our thoughts. Okay? Our patterns live in our bodies. Our nervous system is constantly scanning for safety, familiarity, predictability, and it's always going to choose what's safe, what seems safe. Okay, we'll get into this in a little bit. What seems familiar, what seems predictable. Okay, often over in the present moment of possibly what feels better, and that's where that conscious piece comes in. We consciously know, like, I know better, or I want to feel better, or we're driven towards that feeling better, but our nervous systems are so black and white and they're so driven by survival. Okay. So that's how we find ourselves in those same survival mode patterns. So I want to paint a little picture. Think of us, a human being, as a computer. Follow me here, but I really enjoy this analogy because we do live in a technological world. Okay. So think of us like a computer. We have the mouse, the keyboard, the screens, all of that are our body parts. Okay. Screen, our eyes, mouse, let it be our hands, right? So each component of a computer are the components of our body, our conscious awareness. I see, or you're looking at me, I hear myself talking, you hear me talking. We are consciously presently here together right now. However, everything happening in the background, without us knowing what's going on, when you type something into Google, what's happening? Like what's truly happening in this system, on this screen, and this keyboard, and this hard drive? What's happening behind the scenes? Same thing about our subconscious. So even when you know, like, oh, I shouldn't be people pleasing, or I shouldn't be overextending myself, I should have better boundaries, I shouldn't ignore my needs, your nervous system might still be saying, or it might be programmed to say, this is what keeps me safe. We survived this before. This is how I know how to survive. And this is where that important, like this is really important. There are a couple different, well, I don't want to say just a couple different ways, but I'm going to share a couple different ways of perception of navigating life. Okay. Thinking, feeling. Okay. How often are we taught to feel first? Think about that for a second. How often are we taught to start in our soma, to start feeling first? Because thinking mode is saying, what should I do? What makes sense? What's the right answer? So instant gratification. We talked about this in the last workshop in video one, truly about that force, that urgency, that catastrophic piece. That's our mind. Feeling mode slows things down. It's more subtle. What does this feel like in my body? Do I feel open, contracted? Do I feel pushed, pulled? Do I feel anxiety, tightening? Really connecting with those felt senses. And the difference here is the bottom up, the feeling to thinking approach versus the thinking to feeling. So the bottom up approach allows ourselves to rewire easier. I don't want to say easier, maybe simpler. Because once we feel ourselves maybe contracting or having that tightening in our chest, we can then consciously bridging to our conscious awareness. Oh, I remember the last time I was in this certain type of situation, this happened, and I was anxious or I was scared. And then you could rewire in live real time. I'm safe in this moment. Even though the same event is happening, I'm feeling this. I can allow this feeling to ride the wave because I'm safe now, or XYZ. Does that make sense? How is this landing for you? Really having that bottom up approach. And reminder too from our first workshop, I've said this before. If you ever have any questions, or if you ever have like follow up, comments, concerns, questions, please email me hello@naturallyempoweredliving.com. Being you're not here live for this event, I am hosting the same series live. But if you're not here live, you're listening to this workshop, please email me, contact me with any questions, follow up questions. I could create a podcast episode or we can converse through email. But just to let you know that your autonomy matters, like how you are feeling, possibly how you are triggered, what is coming up for you, your perception of this reality as you're consuming this content matters. Okay. So now let's transition into how patterns are formed, right? And I kind of just dabbled into that a little bit. So let's really get into that perception or that concept, not perception, that concept of that trigger, right? Feeling that tightening in the chest, even though, like I don't want to say shouldn't be, but even though in this present moment I'm fine, I'm safe, everything's okay, but I'm being triggered from a past event. So how are these patterns formed? Like this is, let's remove this mystery, okay? And this is like the meat and potatoes of root cause therapy, of having an imprint settled into our soma, settled into our body, something that's not processed, and then it's continuously playing out in our present life because we did not have the capacity or we didn't process said event, not even the event, said feeling, said imprint, energy, and it got stuck in our body. Okay. So your patterns don't just appear, right? Like they're built, they're formed, they're compounded. Everything is energy. And we briefly covered this in the first workshop, but let's say, for example, an experience happens. Okay. And your nervous system responds fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Your nervous system responds to said event. You feel something. We're going to stick with that chest since I keep finding myself coming to my chest. You feel something. Okay. Maybe it's that tightening in your chest. Bam, response noted. Computer, your nervous system, your computer, aka your nervous system, responds to that, notes it down, saves it. Internal dialogue. Okay. That feeling then possibly was silenced by a caretaker or distracted by something else that happened, and you were never able to finish that wave or close that loop of feeling. Maybe you were told to not be scared by some event, or and that would be an example of being silenced by a caregiver. Okay. So even though, your caregiver might be like, you're fine, you're safe, everything's okay, but you're still feeling that trigger within your body that wasn't able to be fully expressed and not able to complete its cycle. You create meaning around it. Oh, that feeling doesn't matter because, that person said I shouldn't feel this way, even though that person may have good intentions. Okay, maybe the event was safe, it's fine, but you are still feeling that, and that feeling was valid. So now the internal dialogue, the meaning that you create around that is my feelings, I don't trust my feelings. This must not be right. Or I'm wrong, and that could compound over and over and over again to turn into identities around possibly in that specific situation. If you're silenced, then maybe you have trouble communicating your needs in the future. Maybe you fall into people pleasing or, saying things that you feel other or that will be better received than speaking your truth. There's so many different variables that come into this, but your nervous system is going to repeat what kept you alive, survival in that moment, even though we know that that loop wasn't able to complete, we still survived. So that is how the repeated cycle happens. So back to this computer analogy, computer is binary, 0, 1, 0, 1, black and white, yes and no. That is very much our nervous system and our subconscious. even if it thinks it's keeping us safe in the present moment because it kept us alive back in the past. It doesn't understand possibly the complexity, the bio-individuality, maybe of your present moment. Your life is different now. And your subconscious, your nervous system also doesn't know time. That's for a completely other workshop. But there's a way for you to then bring that safety back to the present moment and allow yourself to finish that loop. Okay, so let's talk some examples. So if speaking up once led to rejection, your system might learn it's safer to stay quiet. That was kind of an example that I just shared. So now, as an adult, even if you want to speak up or have an opinion about something, your nervous system remembers, that's not safe. You got silenced in the past, you got yelled at in the past, whatever that may have been, that's not safe. And this is where that self-abandonment comes in. I can't trust myself. I can't trust this feeling. This must not be right. Insert protector parts, insert protector emotions to cover that unprocessed loop. How is this landing? I know, again, we're not in person, so I hope that this is landing okay. Again, email me at any time with any questions or follow-ups. So since this loop never had a chance to complete or process, what can happen is we keep attracting or creating the same types of patterns and circumstances in our lives because our bodies always want to heal. Okay, our bodies innately want to heal. And over time, if we keep responding in the same way, it's going to compound, it's going to compound, it's going to compound. Then we physically start to feel ailments, and there's so much more complexity that comes into this. And on the flip side, we can completely shut down from life. Possibly if shame gets involved, if guilt gets involved, a lot of those heavy emotions get involved, and we could close down. We can completely shut down. That's where dissociation comes into play. All of these other personality or these traits can come into play. Hypervigilance, dissociation, okay? And all that to say, we can quote unquote clear this buildup or release this pent up, this stuck energy, these unprocessed emotions to then allow a free, open pathway for your present life emotions to flow as they are intended to, as a guidance system, as feedback when you feel an emotion in present time. I was just talking, this is kind of a tangent, but I was just talking with a client the other day about that same concept of we're feeling presently we're feeling an emotion, but we're being triggered back to a past response. And that's how we're living it out until we clear or process that past response, that past imprint, to then really open our pathways. That's why I do a lot of chakra work, a lot of energy work to open up our chakras, open up our pathways, to then allow our bodies to innately do what it's intended to do, to be a guidance system. Our emotions are feedback to our reality in the now, what is happening in the now within our lives. But a lot of times, it's being triggered by an imprint that has happened in the past because it wasn't processed in the past. So that's the tricky thing here. Like the more that we stop that emotional wave from flowing and completing within our body, that's when it begins to get compounded. And then that compounded stuck emotion creates maybe imagine like this little orb, like this little energy orb around that emotion, maybe like a little wall to protect you. So then your behaviors, your ego, your actions, your conscious, your subconscious tries to avoid that said feeling because it wasn't safe to feel it in that moment. So it never wants to feel it again. To avoid feeling that way or re-experiencing that said trauma possibly of that imprint. So then maybe another emotion covers up that orb like anger. And that's where projection possibly can come into play. When we're being triggered, rather than feeling that hurt or that sad by a need not getting met, we are projecting out into anger. I just wanted to pause there for a minute because that's a lot. That's a lot to take in. So I also want to come at this from a different angle. Same concept, but just explained in a different way. We all live complex lives, right? We all have hardships. We all come from different upbringings, different environments, different societal atmospheres. However, we are all human. We all have emotions. We are all made up of energy. And that energy, based on our experiences and how our body is taught to process it, that that is it. That's that picture, right? So it's not necessarily an event that may traumatize us, rather how we respond to that event. And then that imprint happens based on how we responded to said event. Okay, that event overwhelmed our nervous system's capacity to process what is happening versus the event itself. So, what happened or an experience happens to two people. Same exact experience happens to two people. Okay, same exact thing. It might be traumatizing to one person, but it might not be to another because that situation alone doesn't cause the trauma. Rather, it's the energetic component that overwhelms our system's capacity to process said experience of that moment. And of course, like there's so many layers here. Obviously, certain situations, certain experiences will, yes, be traumatizing based on the complexity and severity. It will be traumatizing to everyone that experiences it, right? Of course, there's a lot of variables, there's a lot of layers to this. If it was a one-time occurrence, if it was a repeated event, but just to kind of bring full circle, it's not the event that is traumatizing. It is the person's capacity to process said event in that moment. And then also, if someone had a caregiver there to help them through that moment versus possibly someone not having a caregiver there to help them through that moment. And more often than not, in the collective society that we live in, we often choose to ignore or shove under the rug or suppress or repress said experiences or emotions or traumas simply because it's more comfortable. And I'm very thankful to be a voice to start normalizing that it's okay to feel your feelings. It's okay to have emotional intelligence, to start at any point in your life to build emotional development, emotional attunement. So, this might lead to compounded emotions. This event, right? This event, if unprocessed, might lead to compounded emotions, stuck energies, blockages formed that interfere with our highest good, with our highest intentions, right? That's where the conscious willpower comes in. Like, I know I shouldn't be doing this, or I know I should start XYZ, or I want to feel this way, or I know I'm self-sabotaging. Our highest intentions, our highest good, it's being blocked. So avoidance, in my opinion, if your goal is to live a free, peaceful, full of love, intentional, full of gratitude, that perspective, right? Avoidance is not an option long term. Everything eventually comes to the surface. And we always have a choice to either work with it or shove it under the rug once again. And I do want to note here too, because like I said earlier, our bodies always want to heal. We innately want to heal. Even in Reiki, I am a safe space. I am a vessel. I am a channel to open the doors, to open the portals for your body to turn on its innate healing abilities. Okay? Same thing here. We always have a choice. We always have the free will. So if you're like in it, in the thick, like face down in the mud, and you're like, nope, not today, you always have the free will to do that. But just understand that your subconscious will continue to bring things up that need to be healed or worked on or processed through to align you back to your highest good, to your soul's intention, to your true innate energy. So eventually, these roots, let's call them, these imprints, they catch up to us, right? And that's a lot of the people that I work with now. Like I said, so self-aware. They are so attuned to what is happening, but the how, like it's caught up to them, and the how they just don't know how to help themselves. So we have to meet these feelings, these imprints head on, and it's not to relive said experience. It's to allow your body to process the felt experience. So the suppression, the repression, those energies exist. Those stuck energies, those stuck emotions, they exist. And they bring on the self-doubt. They bring on the self-sabotage, the efforts, just the negative efforts, let's say, that manifest within our lives, these patterns. And again, I mean, I took a pause to like, should I bring up the physical manifestation? But that is a conversation for a different day. But the embodied cognition of it all is the phenomenon where emotional and physical states are interconnected. And the way to deal with these energies, to acknowledge them, to give them the space to be seen, to be felt, to be processed, to be released, to now live fully in the present. Through this awareness, we are now returning to acceptance and compassion, to transmute and to process. But only after we allow ourselves to get to these roots, to feel these imprints, are we free to build those intentions on a sturdy foundation. That was a lot. So we're going to conclude the educational component of this workshop and now move into the somatic practice. Okay. So if you want to pause me, take a fiver. I know I'm going to keep going, but feel free at any time to pause me. And if you're ready to go ahead, we're going to do a quick somatic practice. So grab a journal, piece of paper, something to write with, and go ahead and get comfortable. Feel your feet on the ground. And if it feels good to you, go ahead and close your eyes. Take a nice, long, slow breath in, but an even longer exhale out. Just taking a few breaths here to transition into this present moment. And I invite you to bring to mind a situation where you have been feeling stuck. Or even a pattern that's coming to mind. Just not forcing yourself to think of what's the most overwhelming one or the worst one, quote unquote, worst one. Just the first thing that becomes present to you. Trusting that first thing that comes to you. And once it lands, rather than continuing to think about it, I want to ask your body. So go ahead and ask your body, what do I feel? And just notice what's arising. Is it a sensation, a tightness, heaviness, warmth, maybe numbness or confusion? Or maybe another thought does come in, or an image. Maybe nothing. All of this is okay. We're not forcing anything. We're just allowing. And once that feeling has dropped in, or you've been able to connect to that said feeling, wherever you're feeling it in your body, just allow that feeling to fully come to climax. Really allow it to intensify if you feel comfortable and safe for it to. Just allowing it space to be. If it's anxiety or fear, just allow yourself to really feel that visceral reaction. And once it starts to come down, just allow yourself to continue to breathe through it. Once it reached that peak intensity, Just continue to breathe, allowing it to fully dissipate. And once you feel that feeling has subsided enough, maybe it's fully gone, ask yourself, what might this feeling have been trying to show me? What's the truth of this situation or this feeling or trigger or pattern? What is important to know or to learn? And again, we're not forcing any answers, just allowing whatever that's dropping in to come to you. Allowing that soft whisper, that intuition and higher self to come through, that emotion is processing. And I invite you to slowly bring your awareness back to the present moment, wiggling your fingers and your toes. And when you're ready, you could go ahead and open your eyes and pull out your journal or your paper. Or if you just want to sit and now allow yourself to cognitively process, asking yourself, what was important to know and what did I learn? What did I notice? What came up for me? Did anything surprise me? Did clarity surface after that intensity softened? And just take a few minutes here to allow yourself to be with yourself. This is how we tap into our subconscious, to allow ourselves to process things that have been stuck. Stuck as in not having the space to truly be fully felt and processed, to then release what no longer serves us, and to bridge in that cognition, right? Our mind is very important, very powerful, but it comes after this. And this is how your self trust deepens, how your self connection strengthens, how your self love and wholeness builds. Because we're coming back to our innate being by allowing all of the unprocessed gunk, let's call it, to leave our systems. So to recap, bringing it back to the beginning of this workshop, at the beginning of this video, we're not here trying to change said behaviors. It's about understanding it and learning how to process what's underneath it. to allow that behavior change to be a natural byproduct. Because once we start understanding our system and how we work, we stop fighting ourselves and we reconnect to our felt sense. We stop outsourcing our own autonomy, our own inner authority. And that somatic practice was a little taste of learning how to actually rewire, right? Today was really understanding that internal operating system. And workshop 3 will be really harnessing how to rewire it. So workshop 3 will be held live at the Naturally Empowered Living office in Blanchardville, connected to Rooted Collective 201. It'll be held Saturday, May 16th at 1 p.m. if you're able to come live. And we're going to really be expanding on workshops 1 and 2, learning about rewiring that self-abandonment and other self-sabotaging cycles at the root. And of course, if you can't come live, if you're listening to this virtually, there will be the recorded component for workshop 3 as well. And if you're local, for those who are looking or feeling called into the deeper work or looking for some sort of connection with other like-minded individuals, women, Slow Water Retreat is this summer, July 25th, and I'm so blessed and honored to be a co-facilitator of this retreat. It's a peaceful day or weekend. We have multiple options designed to help you slow down and reconnect and nourish yourself, mind and body in a natural setting. We'll experience yoga and a floral workshop and journaling and a group root cause therapy session and just meaningful time to connect with ourselves and with others, just surrounded by the peace of nature and the river. So excited for that. So you can go to www.britt-thompson.com/slowwaterretreat. I'll put that in like the little text for you to click the link if you're interested in that. But thank you so much. So much for being here. I'm so thankful that you enrolled in this course, in this workshop series, because your past lives in your present patterns. And learning to feel, not just think, and to reconnect to the you beneath your behavior. That's the work that you're here doing. So thank you. I'm sending my love and so much light. Let's just take a second. Let out a big exhale before you start, the rest of your day, transitioning to the next thing you have to do. Just allow yourself to take that moment to notice how you're feeling. I'm so thankful that you're here. And if something clicked for you within this episode, within this workshop, if you had this moment of oh, that makes sense. Or I get it now. Or I feel understood. Or I'm not broken, right? This is just the beginning. This is how self-trust actually starts to build or rebuild. So take out your calendars or just check the show notes whenever you get a chance. Workshop 3 of 3 is happening May 16th live in person at the Naturally Empowered Living office, but May 16th at 1 p.m. And we're going to take everything from the first 2 sessions and begin to actually rewire. We're going to learn how to rewire at the root. And of course, if you're not able to come live, if you're not local, there will be the virtual option if you are already registered to the How to Build Trust Within Yourself by reconnecting with your felt sense. If you're already registered for this workshop, awesome. The 3rd will drop around May 16th or a little bit after. And for those of you feeling called into the deeper, more immersive experience, if you're local or if you're willing to drive a little ways, I am co-facilitating a retreat this summer, the Slow Water Retreat on July 25th. You can make it a full weekend, but we have a full day to slow down, to reconnect, to do this work, really intentional in a supported, nurturing space. So all those details are also linked for you in the show notes. And I will see you in the next episode. So until next week, as always, be you. You have everything inside of you to learn your energy of alignment and be unapologetic in who you are. Sending my love and so much light.